Former Prime Minister Scott Morrison has defended his decision to secretly swear himself into 5 ministerial portfolios during the pandemic. "These were extraordinary times in which I had the great honor and privilege to serve as Prime Minister," he said at a press conference in Sydney. No Prime Minister has faced the same combination of circumstances, be it the pandemic or indeed the drought, the global recession and the Australian recession caused by the pandemic and the many other natural disasters that befell the country over that period of time. Explained, the Morrison secret portfolio story. Morrison took ministerial responsibilities in the health, treasury, home affairs, resources and finance portfolios. "I sought those powers but I was only going to use them in an emergency," he said. The former Prime Minister claimed he had acted in accordance with public expectations. "There was a clear expectation established in the public's mind, certainly in the media's mind, and absolutely certainly in the mind of the opposition, as I would walk into question time every day, that I, as Prime Minister, was responsible pretty much for every single thing that was going on, every drop of rain, every strain of the virus, everything that occurred over that period of time," he said. Read more. Coles to strip shelves of everyday item. Morrison feared misunderstanding over secret roles. Morrison dismissed the suggestion he didn't have the courage to tell his frontbench colleagues he had secretly taken their jobs. "I think there was a great risk that in the midst of that crisis those powers could be misinterpreted and misunderstood, which would have caused unnecessary angst in the middle of a pandemic," he said. "I did what I thought was necessary in the national interest to ensure the government continued to perform well." He said he had apologized for the offense caused to the ministers, but did not concede he had done anything wrong. "I regret that offense and I apologize for that offense, but I am pleased that through the course of the pandemic my confidence was in them to keep just doing their job," Morrison said. "The fact I didn't interfere in doing their job shows the confidence I had in them." He said the ministers in the portfolios in question had continued to act as ministers, and that he did not instruct any department that he had jurisdiction over their duties. But he did distinguish between taking on pandemic-related ministerial roles, and his assumption of the resources minister role, in which capacity he blocked a gas project that Minister Keith Pitt favored. "I don't regret that for a second," he said. "I'm very happy with that decision." In spite of that, Morrison said Pitt did an outstanding job as minister. He also addressed why he did not remember being sworn into the Treasury portfolio. "I was administratively sworn in, which gave me authority, like many other ministers had, to exercise decisions in an emergency situation," Morrison said. "It was something that was done on an order of many other issues we were dealing with at the time." He insisted he was not co-administering any of the portfolios. "I didn't recall," he said. "It would be wrong to characterize it, as you have, that I was taking over the portfolio because my actions demonstrate that I did no such thing. I didn't intervene in one decision of the Treasurer. At the time, Morrison and Treasurer Josh Frydenberg were housemates at the lodge." Morrison said he will be happy to cooperate with any process investigating gaps in the government's system. Read more. Aussie actress in LA found after public appeal our system was put under the microscope and put under strain, he said. "I hope that the experience of this time will assist those in the future to better understand how these issues could be managed. There are gaps in how systems work and we sought to overcome them." The former Prime Minister said he was acting in the national interest in a crisis. "I believed it was necessary to have authority, to have what were effectively emergency powers, to exercise in extreme situations," he said. "I'd rather be having this conversation about what I did do, instead of what I didn't do." Treasurer Jim Chalmers described Morrison's behavior as dictatorial earlier today. Read more. Explosions rocked Crimea in suspected Ukrainian attack. He then labeled current opposition leader Peter Dutton as Morrison's chief apologist. "The Morrison government is just as guilty as Scott Morrison himself," he said. "They have emboldened, they have empowered, they have encouraged this kind of behavior. The idea that they didn't know that Scott Morrison had these dictatorial tendencies is absolutely ridiculous and absolutely laughable." Former Home Affairs Minister Karen Andrews has called on Morrison to resign from Parliament. But Morrison said today he would remain as MP for Cook, and that his commitment to the seat was total. broke the first rule of power grab club. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese didn't tone down his rhetoric today, speaking in Queensland following Morrison's press conference. The first rule of power grab club is don't talk about power grab club, and Scott Morrison broke that rule today, Albanese said. Scott Morrison was evasive, passive-aggressive, and of course he was self-serving, so at least he was true to himself today. Albanese said Morrison had not accepted responsibility and instead blamed others for his actions. Mr. Morrison spoke about apologizing to his ministerial colleagues for how they felt, but he accepted no responsibility, Albanese said. How about an apology to the Australian people? The government will seek advice on the legalities of Morrison's appointments from the Solicitor General. This only came about, to be very clear, because Scott Morrison was writing a biography with a couple of journalists. And bit by bit information came out, Albanese said. He criticized Scott Morrison's comments on 2 gigabytes that he didn't remember several self-appointments. He couldn't remember that had been appointed to the Ministry of the Treasury. I mean, give me a break, Albanese said. I don't think it's possible to take what he has said at face value. We have asked for advice, we await that advice.